Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. And here are our top stories. The pension crisis. Yep, it's a global issue. And we'll talk about some actuarial ideas to mitigate the crisis. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Abraham Hernandez. He is president of Vitalis. Vitalis is a Mexican actuarial and asset management firm. Abe, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. My pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to chat with you. And what I really love about doing segments with people like yourself is we get to bring in the best ideas, the best concepts from all around the world, not only here in the States, but also in places like Mexico, Slovenia. We've talked to so many different people around the world to get some of the best ideas. So, Abe, I know you recently gave a presentation about mitigating some of these global pension crisis and challenges. First, what is this potential or this upcoming pension crisis that we're going to see across the globe?
Well, it's not really upcoming. It's already here. Every day you open the newspaper and there's something about the pension crisis. There's something about high expenditure for governments. Expenditure of governments is now for developed countries, the OECD countries, at 7.7% of GDP. So it's a huge expense. In some countries, it's up to 15%. And this means 15% of all output of the country goes to pay pensions by the government. And it is growing. It used to be 5.7% in 1980. And as I said, the average is now at 7.7 and growing. So for governments, it is something that is growing. It is a concern. Also, we have the extinction of defined benefit pension plans. This used to be a usual aspect of workplace. People who worked for a company for enough time would know that they had their retirement in place, paid by both Social Security and their company. But now, as you know, there's no more defined benefit plans. Instead, there has been a transfer of risk to employees through 401k type plans. And at the same time, lower contributions from part of the employers. If normally what they contributed to defined benefit plans was close to, say, 8-9% of payroll, now they're contributing more close to 4 or 5% of payroll to 401k type plans. So there are lower contributions and transfer of risk to employees. And there is less family support available. So people who would at retirement rely on the family, now we won't. So there is indeed, it's something we don't necessarily see at this time, but it's like this tale of the frogs, how you cook frogs. And you put frogs that are still alive in a pan, the water starts warming up, and frogs are really comfortable until it's too late. So, the crisis is not something into the future. The crisis is here now.
Yeah, and Abe, when you look at, what I want to do in this first segment is kind of set this up, and so people understand kind of how this all has happened. You did that very eloquently with the extinction of the defined benefit plan in a lot of places around the world. What about aging populations? Not only here in the U.S., but throughout Europe, China, there are aging populations, and we're not replacing people at the birth rate, for lack of a better term, is just not at the same rate as it once was. That's a problem.
Yes, it is certainly a problem. It is an issue. It is a problem because Social Security and many pension plans were based on a uh, uh, population pyramid with lots of people working, supporting those retiring. But that is now over. And yes, part of it is explained by longevity. To give an idea, at the beginning of the 1900s, the life expectancy was around 50 years, right? In 1950, it was 55, still, I mean, a low life expectancy. Now it is closer to 80 something. So life expectancy has been growing. It has been increasing by 1 year every 5 years. So every 5 years, we have one more year of life expectancy. So this has made people are living longer. And yes, of course, as you pointed out, fertility rates. So fertility rates in many developed countries, and even in some emerging economies, is below the replacement rate, below the population replacement rate, which is 2.1 children per woman. And it's gone below that. So that has made that fewer people are supporting the elderly. And something also in developing countries, whatever happened in, for example, in Europe, this aging population that took place during 1 century will take place in some places like in China in 40 years. So there's much less time to be prepared for these aging population issues. So yes, demography is one of the root causes of the pension crisis. Pension systems were not prepared for this. Were not based on this demographic dynamic.
Yeah. Well, and I want to ask you about interest rates in a second, but when you look at these plans, and you founded Vitalis, very successful company. You've been working with pension plans for many, many years. Has this issue not been addressed in terms of looking, have governments not been talking about this? Have associations, actuarial associations not been talking about this? It seems to me that if you were just following birth rate, you would see that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you would see this continue to kind of pop up on the radar screen. So this seems to me like maybe preventable, but also something that you would see coming.
Well, certainly. Actuaries have been talking about this for many, many years. I have been addressing the issue myself for many years, and so have many actuaries around the world. But well, governments sometimes have other priorities, and I mean, there's a lot of pressure to keep the status quo. For example, in France, whenever they talk about pension reform, it's like going back to civil war, and you have people going out on strike, and they don't want to change because this leads. There are only two solutions, which is either we spend more money on this. Well, there are three solutions: spending more money, working longer, or retiring with a lower pension. There are no other solutions. Actuaries do not print the money, right? we give possible solutions, but all solutions converge in any of these things who nobody likes. Nobody wants to pay more. Governments cannot. The way to pay more from governments is taxing the people more. So nobody likes that. Nobody likes to work longer to get access to a pension, and nobody wants to retire with less money. So actuaries have been addressing these issues for a long time, but there's a lot of procrastination from part of the government and society and workers and everybody. So it's not easy. No politician gets elected through pension reform.
Yeah, as you were speaking, and I have to go to a quick commercial break, but I just want to make the point that Professor Milton Friedman, a Nobel-winning economist, used to say the tyranny of the status quo, and it truly is. It truly is the tyranny of the status quo if you're not willing to address the issues, make changes when you can see things coming. Abe, I want to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the solutions that Abe outlined. We'll get into some more details. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Abraham Hernandez, who's the president of Vitalis. Abe, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Before we get to the solutions, one thing I wanted to chat with you is the low interest rate environment. That's also causation for a lot of these pension challenges that we're facing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, pension plans are also based on the assumption that you can invest money at certain interest rates. And I mean, whereas during the 1990s, I mean, government rates, treasury bills were still at 6%, then went down to 4 or 5% at the beginning of this century. And now they are less than 2% and even negative in many countries. And real rates of return that is above inflation are negative for almost all the developed world. So now instead of getting money for, getting interest rates for money invested, institutional investors need to pay to keep that money in the bank. So the combination of demography and interest rates, just to give an idea, has increased 3 or 4-fold the cost of providing for a pension. So if you take pension as a pension as a commodity, as an article, I mean, the price has increased 3 or 4-fold in the last 30 years.
That's significant. Obviously has an impact. You know, I think about, I'm not an actuary, obviously, but the discount rate actuaries use, you have to be able to discount back to calculate the liabilities, to determine all the formulas for contributions. This is for the audience. This is where this all kind of dominoes and has an impact on what the funding levels are. And by the way, Abe, if you don't make the contributions, you just kick the can down the road, which is, I think, kind of where you said we are. Let's talk about some of the solutions you outlined. Let's go into more detail about them. Are some of the changes being enacted in parts of the world today?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, many countries are doing pension reform, and at the end, it's a combination of everything. It's a combination of saving more one way or the other, so increasing contributions, of increasing the retirement age, and retiring with a lower pension. At the end, all reforms converge on some of these possibilities, making it the least painful possible, and they all are short of what is needed. I mean, and it is impossible to make a reform once and for all. Some countries have come up with solutions like increasing retirement age along the increase on life expectancy, for example, and do that automatically. That was initiated in Nordic countries, and it's been widespread now. And trying to, we will increase contributions and increase a little bit benefits for some segments. Again, trying to make it palatable for everybody, but at the end, it is painful, and it's not a once and for all. But yes, many countries have done pension reforms in one of these ways.
Yeah, and Abe, I mean, is it what it holds back some of these countries that are maybe not doing enough? I mean, here in the States, we're constantly talking about the finances of state and local government, the finances of the federal government, the liabilities of all those entities. We talk about it all the time on the corporate balance sheet. But why isn't there this, I guess, outreach or this, outpouring of this, desire to kind of cure things and try to make things better? I mean, it really is a compromise. Everyone's got to come to the table and compromise, because if you don't do something, people could be left destitute. We've seen riots, I think, in Greece and other places where even the minute disruption related to pension payments has caused a stirring. So I guess my question to you is, why not now? Why aren't people taking the reins and trying to do something?
I mean, it's a matter of priorities, and it's a matter of who pays it. It's a matter of a generational fight. I mean, who should be paying for this? And so it is political rather than a financial or an economic or actuarial issue. I mean, actuaries can only give numbers, but at the end, it's the society through their politicians that must take action. And since it is not something that will happen tomorrow, there's always something that may happen tomorrow, and it's more important. So politicians and society just keep kicking the can for the future and do things when there's no other option. But that is the way it will continue. There's never been like a full reform once and for all, neither for pensions nor for any other economic issues. So we will see this, and we will see a constant pension reform around the world, and some other things that might be done. For example, saving more. It's not necessarily through taxes. It's not necessarily through compulsory contributions, but there's, for example, this idea of saving through consumption. So you put a tax on yourself whenever you spend, you are at the same time saving something for retirement. These are some ideas that are taking hold in some places, like in Mexico, in Spain, in some other countries. There's also a need to pool risks, because now with the 401k type plans, two persons saving the same, taking the same type of risks in general, will get a different pension when they retire, just because one picked one mutual fund and the other one picked another mutual fund. And that is not necessarily fair. So we should see more pooling of risks within society. People will need to work longer, and this addresses some other changes, how we keep people working longer in the workplace. We need to change the workplace. Now with technology is helping, and will allow people to keep on working a longer time, probably not full time, and remotely, which will help some people. So that will be something to do. There are also some other things like reverse mortgages. We can talk about that another some other time. So there are some solutions.
Yeah, there are definitely solutions. I think it's just a matter of educating the public, and then the public kind of will demand reform, right? That the politician just responds to where they're going to get their votes for their next.
Exactly what people want, and if people get conscious of the problem, of the crisis, and what it's facing them, they will prompt politicians to do something about this. You're correct, and these programs like yours, I think they are helping people get that conscious.
Yeah, well, I think you've been an advocate for reform and change. We try to be helpful in terms of broadening the message. I think more and more people take notice. These issues will be addressed. Abe, we're going to have to leave it there. Really enjoyed the conversation. I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program. We look forward to having you back again very soon.
My pleasure, Jeffrey.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our newsletter, The Morning Pulse, and of course, our website. We're back again tomorrow, so until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.